Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the Moot final as much as we did. It was really a great presentation of advocacy skills. We're going to start by giving some feedback, starting with my colleague Jill Phillips at the far end there, and once we've each given some feedback on it, we will announce our decisions. Jill.
Thank you. So just a couple of points from me. One is a sort of a general point about mooting, and I mean, as you'll have seen with this case, and is often the way with cases, one thing that I think it's quite good to do is not just concentrate on your positive cases, but because you're arguing on both sides, you know where the weaknesses are of each other's case, and I think being prepared and anticipating the weaknesses and thinking the arguments through is a very good thing to do. There's a tendency to sort of go on how you're going to make, as I say, the positive case. So that's just a general comment from me on the sort of case preparation and thinking about things. What I also wanted to just say a little bit on, because it's an area that is of some interest to me, is the sort of standards that you apply to people in this day and age who are calling themselves journalists, and where the differences are between journalists, citizen journalists, activists, someone who's a blogger. I mean, you know, do the same set of standards apply to all of them? If you've got a citizen journalist who's blogging about things locally, but then suddenly finds themselves in the eye of a storm on something, what standards do you hold them to? And where is the sort of, you know, the level of expectation that can apply? And I mean, I think there are some areas where people would say activists cannot be journalists. You can't judge them because they're not conforming to some of the norms that you might expect of a journalist: objectivity, accountability, transparency. Whereas you know, an activist, you're almost expecting to be one-sided and to be partial. So all these things are really difficult, and they've got no easier in the last 10 or 15 years. And if you look at the definitions internationally, they tend to start off quite narrowly, looking at professional journalists and commercially employed journalists. And then as the definitions have gone on, they've got wider and wider and wider in terms of, and I mean, if you look at the definition, for example, of public participation on the SLAP directive and the Council of Europe recommendation on SLAP, it's a really wide body of people who are protected within that. So I think that, you know, it's just a really interesting area which the case study here gets into. And I think the other thing is how do you define a journalist? Do you look at the content, or do you look at how they work and what they do? I don't have answers to any of these things, but I do think it's a really interesting area that the case study brought out really well. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. Paolo.
Thank you, Jill, and thank you to both the teams for these very engaging rounds. I'm going to make just a couple of very quick, perhaps more academic, therefore boring by definition remarks, and so I'll try and keep them short. But first of all, one thing that I really enjoyed about these rounds was the spread of authorities at the comparative level that both sides managed to bring up. Very often we end up hearing cases largely based on the case law from the European Court of Human Rights, which is all fine and nice, of course, but here we heard authorities from different jurisdictions, different regional systems, which made it all the more interesting, all the more competent and knowledgeable. That was really nice, really good. Perhaps when you engage with such a widespread of different authorities, different jurisdictions, it's also extremely helpful. It's something that benches, judges normally appreciate. If you can guide them through understanding to what extent there is general consensus at the international level about a specific position, a specific approach, or whether the authority we're relying on is perhaps a little bit more of a specific approach, which doesn't inherently make it weaker. Maybe there's contextual, specific reasons why a specific approach, a specific position prevails in a region, in a part of the world, and you want to say And this also applies to the case at stake. So I think it's important that you manage to guide judges through understanding why the authority you're relying on applies, and it's the precedent they should follow. And on this note, I also think both sides did a very good job at marshalling the evidence to the court in the sense. So there was some very good engagement also with the facts of the cases, perhaps when you were prompted on it rather than bringing it out spontaneously in a sense. But I think you did, both the sides showed a good command, a good knowledge of the authorities and why they apply. So that was really good to see. Cases, every year, I think, the Price Moot case, there's a few fundamental general principles that underscore the case, and it's important to show good knowledge, good familiarity with the general principles. You don't necessarily have to bring them up directly in your case, but perhaps when you engage with the judges, or if the judges ask you a question, it's important to demonstrate that degree of familiarity, which I think also the teams generally did well today in this respect. They were, we did engage in conversations about general principles like the difference between commercial speech and political speech, and when the commercial nature of a news business or a platform characterizes their service as inherently commercial in nature and the level of protection that it therefore deserves. The notion of a chilling effect, what constitutes adequate notice for takedown orders. Of course, the principle of proportionality. Overall, you all demonstrated enough familiarity with these principles. At times, there were some difficulties, perhaps more on one side than the other at different points in time. But overall, when preparing for a case like this, and this is also perhaps advice for anyone who may be thinking to coming back in the next years, make sure that you also have a good command of the general principles, even if you're not directly engaging with them in your script, but they will likely come up when the judges converse with you. So be prepared to have a strong command of them. I think that's it from me. Thank you.
My turn. I know I'm keeping you from an announcement of who won, so I'll try and keep myself relatively, I'll speak rather quickly. May I just give testament to the respondents' team ability to change clothes very quickly, because I looked up and I suddenly thought, hold on, where have they gone? So to talk a little bit about one of the central elements about mooting, and one of the most difficult judgments, I think, about mooting is when to give ground and when to maintain your argument. It's really difficult to know. I think the key thing is to, and some of the teams I judged earlier on have heard me say this before, I think the key thing to do is to see your case as a whole and to recognise where the absolute pinch points are, which if you give ground on that, that's going to create problems downstream. And the ones where you can legitimately give ground and it doesn't matter too much. Sometimes giving ground, either when you start as you did on legitimacy or when pressurised, can be tactically a very good thing because you come across as the responsible advocate, not as the person who is obdurate and intransigent, but as someone who's the reasonable person, and then the judges can then go, oh, I can trust this person. Of course, it's not necessarily the case. It's a way of persuading. It's a tool of advocacy. So concessions are important, but obviously not the wrong concessions. And the other point to take account of, I think, is that sometimes if you make a concession in one point, it creates difficulty for you downstream in another. And I think the respondents, I could highlight that. To fight the arguments about legality, you didn't make a concession, but you focused on the notion that the provision at play was the misrepresentation provision. The consequence of that is you discounted yourself from arguing about the proportionality arguments which existed for incitement to violence. So a punishment for misrepresentation for a criminal sanction may be viewed in one light, a punishment of a criminal sanction for incitement to violence is seen in another light. So it's obviously a decision one takes, and there's nothing wrong with making these decisions, but sometimes they lead to downstream consequences. That applies to everyone, really. But that's just an example of the difficulties sometimes. I think I was briefly trying to find one of my favourite quotes, but I've lost it. I think it was Frederick the Great of Prussia, who was a great Prussian general, who said something along the lines, I'm going to maul the quote here, but he who fights on all fronts loses. And that's the point here. You need to choose your battles. You need to choose the key ones you want to fight, and you can win on there ultimately, and then you'll persuade. So that's the end of me.
Great, thanks, Richard. So I just want to say a few things about answering questions, because I thought we had a tremendous display of the ability to answer questions without being diverted from the overall kind of flow of your argument. This is really difficult in 21 minutes to be able to, especially when you're getting probably at least 21 questions, often going in opposite directions, to be able to maintain the flow of your argument. And I think, both teams demonstrated that in this final. And it is really something that the more you practice. And I will say that by and large, that is the moment that in a moot, you are going to be marked. It's a very important moment for deciding how good an oralist you are. And the reason for that in a moot is that in a courtroom, that is your most important moment for persuading the judge, when finally you find out where the judge's problems are. And sometimes the judge might be asking the question because they're wanting to divert it to another judge. There are all sorts of reasons for judges answering questions, but it is a window into the thinking of the court. And being able to answer questions is absolutely crucial, which is why we emphasize it again and again in mooting. And it's difficult because you can get distracted. I think it was Speaker 2 for the respondents who got asked effectively a question that was going to be the very last point she was going to get to, probably right at the outset of her argument. So it is difficult, and unfortunately, it's not always the most helpful thing to say to the court. Well, please, could you just wait? I will get there after I've dealt with all the other points, and then it'll be in my nice flow, and I'll be able to follow my notes. Not actually a good idea. If somebody's got a question, they've got it now. And so it's often better to say, I will deal with it now, as you did in those circumstances. So I think this is really one of the hardest skills in mooting. I think we've seen a great display of how to do it today. But don't be, so often when we see something done well, we think, oh, that looks pretty easy. I'm sure I could do that. Don't be misled into how really tough it is. So I think that's all we want to say as feedback. I'm now going to turn to talk about our decision on the winning team. And I will say that having sat on many moot finals, both in this moot particularly, but also in a range of other moots, I don't think I've actually sat in one where the debate went on for as long and went both ways. It was a hard decision to make. And that's because there were sort of different skills. And when you're thinking about who's the best team, it's about those. It's about the skills of the oralist, but it's also about the strategic decisions that are made around how they present the case. It's about how well referenced the submissions are, how able to draw on jurisprudence, as Paolo has talked about, the spread of jurisprudence. There are a range of considerations, and there was a lot of really strong elements on both sides of this. And for those of you who've been mooting during the week, I'm sure you could see that there was a lot going on in these two. At the end of the day, we have identified the respondents as the winning team. In making that decision, and I don't want to take anything away from the respondents, it wasn't without some hesitation because we thought the applicants were outstanding. And we did think and I'm going to be quite candid about our reasoning, as courts ought to be always. We did think that the strategic decision the respondents made on interpreting the facts, which I think was an interpretation of the facts, to say that actually the offence that was prosecuted and convicted here in relation to both parties, Yara and Azelfish, was a misrepresentation argument, was a bold decision, but not necessarily the one that we would have made. So, I just, want to put that on the table. And we thought that as I say, so that was a kind of way of blot in some senses, but it was bold, and mooting requires you to be bold. And you then have to carry through, and that's really what finally won the day. We felt they never wavered. They took on the chin all the consequences of that strategic decision they'd made. They didn't try and claw it back, which was a very strong temptation, I think, for both speakers, possibly more arguably for the second speaker than the first, but they didn't. They held to it, and that's a really strong thing to do and very, very important. So in some ways that made us think that, that was a decision that we felt that they had carried through extremely well. But as I say, I don't want to take away from the applicants, because this really was a terribly close call and a really outstanding set of arguments. And we found it a hard call. So turning then to the best oralist, again, we had some difficulties, very, very strong oral skills on both sides here. But we did, at the end of the day, I think, unanimously come down to the view that speaker one for the applicants is Darcy Evans. And just on that, on the reasoning, I think your answering of questions was flawless, absolutely flawless, not something that is often seen in mooters, I will say. You had some very difficult questions, and you managed to convey that you're actually thinking about the questions and answering them, which is really good, and you didn't get lost, and you held the time. So it was a really excellent display of oralist skills, so congratulations on that. And now I'm going to hand over to the Moot team. Yes, absolutely. And I do feel very sad about John.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. Congratulations to the teams, to both teams in the finals. Before we get into the awards, though, we want to invite Kate, the director, the director of the Bonnevier Institute of Human Rights, just to say a few words.
Well, thanks, Camille. I sort of putting on a different hat now. I would like to thank my colleagues on the final bench for being a terrific colleagues on the final bench, for really bringing great expertise, great engagement and enthusiasm for the project, and I think putting all the oralists on their toes in the exercise. So it's always wonderful. These are three very, very long-standing friends, allies, supporters of the Moot. Wonderful to have you as final judges, and I think that everybody really enjoyed your questions, your testing questions, and I think it made us see the mettle of these wonderful final Mooters. I also, as always, want to, and I think other speakers are going to say something a little bit about Monroe Price and the other friends of this Moot. Monroe Price is not here today. I think he may be listening to us. If you are, Monroe, warm greetings. We're really sorry that you aren't with us. But Monroe has been such a long-standing friend of the Moot, such a firm believer in the importance of freedom of speech and of the media in the world, that is why the Moot is named in his honor. In some ways, 2025 seems to be the most worrying year, and we've had some worrying years since I've been around with the Moot, for the project of freedom of speech and the media globally. And I think I want to acknowledge that, and want to acknowledge how important it is that we continue recognizing the centrality of freedom of speech, of freedom of the media, to building democratic, fair societies in which citizens are able to say what they need to say, to hold political power to account It is absolutely crucial, even if there are many people, particularly the powerful, who would prefer we didn't have freedom of speech because it would be much more convenient for them. That is a vision we can't let go of. We have to hold on to. It has been fiercely won in so many jurisdictions by so many activists over so many centuries that our generations too hold the responsibility to hold the principles of freedom of speech and the importance of the media very close. And Munro, all his life, has stood for that, as has John Blake, who we'll say a few words about in a moment. John Blake was an American lawyer who, a colleague of Munro's and a classmate of Munro's at law school, who became a great supporter of the Moot and was here for many, many years for its final rounds, who sadly passed away this year. We miss him. We will still be awarding the Spirit of the Moot in his name and honor. Because it's a very important part of what the Moot is the idea that by coming here and working together and being colleagues in the proper way that lawyers ought to be colleagues for a week, we build the idea of the rule of law, we build a commitment to freedom of speech, and we build respect for one another in the ways that John Blake really wanted us to do. And finally, I just want to say thank you to the team. I can't say what a delight it is to work with this Moot team, perhaps rather distantly from them, but nevertheless, every now and again quite closely. They are a fantastic team, led by Navena, supported by Sarah, Camille, Sanya. It really is a model, collegial, functioning, fun organization. They do a fantastic job all year long. They think about the Moot. And they really care about it, and they are just great to work with. So this is my last year standing here. I'm going to be stepping down as director at the end of September, and really one of the things I'll miss most is working with this fantastic team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. For your encouraging words and your kind words as well. I'm sure I speak on behalf of the rest of the team when I say it's been a tremendous pleasure for us to work with you, such a great opportunity, and we look forward to your continued support of the Moot as we continue on. Thank you. So, following on what Kate said about, long-standing friends of the Moot, we just wanted to take a moment before we get into the festivities and awards to remember Jonathan Blake a little bit, or Mr. B, as we affectionately called him. So Mr. B, as Kate said, supported the Moot year in, year out, was here, and his absolute favorite thing was to interact with, give advice to, encourage the Mooters. And I think for us as organizers, it's probably one of the things we miss most. Just knowing that we've come this year and we'll come in future years and we will not see him, not see his interaction with all of you. But we know that his spirit lives on. And, the award, as Kate mentioned, is one of the ways that we'll continue to cherish his memory. So Sanya, I think, will start.
Thank you, Camille. And I'm sure everyone can see how Mr. B's enduring impact and spirit continues to touch all of us and continues to live on through this competition. I'm going to speak very briefly about the Spirit of the Competition Award that he established over the past 10 years. And we continue to award that this year with renewed vigor and in his memory. Mr. B, as Camille said, he was fondly called by the Price Moot community, and he was known not only for his extraordinary legal mind, but also for his compassion and his stoicism in the face of several seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Mr. B also had a strong ethical compass, which guided him in the direction of a profession that was primarily dedicated to the public interest. And although his colleagues describe him as a workaholic, which is something that all of us on the team also know, he took every available opportunity he had to mentor the next generation of lawyers in a range of ways. And his involvement with this moot court competition over many, many years of his life and his vision for its future exemplify this. Camille?
So just a little bit about Mr. B and his very distinguished career. So Mr. B was a communications lawyer whose career spanned nearly 5 decades at Covington and Burling in Washington, D.C. He was born in 1939, and his academic journey is one that was marked by excellence. So he earned a BA in history from Yale University. He then continued as a Rhodes Scholar here at the University of Oxford, obtained a BA MA in jurisprudence in 1962, and then he followed that up with an LLB from Yale Law School in 1964. When he joined Covington and Burling in 1964, he jumped right away into the firm's communications and media practice and played a very pivotal role in that practice up until his retirement. His strategic insight was instrumental in defending the Washington Post's television licensing during the Nixon administration, and that was a case that really underscored his legal acumen. His leadership also extended outside of the firm and impacted media and technologies more broadly. He played a crucial role in the development of the mobile phone industry, and he also facilitated the broadcast sector's transition to digital high-definition television, both in the US and globally. And for that role, Mr. B won an Emmy Award. Beyond his professional achievements, he was deeply committed to mentoring young lawyers, and he did so particularly through this moot court in the latter stages of his life. So Mr. B is not here, as we said, to interact with you, but he left behind a bit of advice for all of you. So in an interview, he was asked, what advice would you give to students trying to enter the legal profession today? He said, clear thinking and clear writing go together. Never stop working on them. If something bothers you about a draft, always pursue the source of your unease with tenacity and fix it. Don't sweep it under the rug. Secondly, he was asked, to those who hope to ultimately get into communications and media law, as some of you may want to do, this was his advice. Actively master the technologies involved. Keep current with them and seek to understand their legal and policy implications. So we remember Mr. B through his words, through his advice, and yeah, we remember him very fondly. So I'll hand over to Nevena now.
So I would like to read a couple of words that Monroe Price wrote about Mr. B for this specific occasion. I think of John as long-distance runner, meticulous, passionate, maybe even obsessed. Careful in the way most beautiful runners are, elegant in simplicity, turning the improbable into reality, training, 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 and the performing to the highest of standards. Standards he learned from the headmaster, who was his father. John was a pragmatic butler for progress who would broker bitter disputes between a rich and powerful commercial industries and even more complicated public sector service, a sector that desperately and increasingly needed his wisdom and judgment. I think of John and his friendship, collaborative and creative, loyal but independent. He was most assuredly part of the continuous transformation of the media sector in 20th and 21st century. But modifying the analogy of a long-distance runner, he incorporated elements of honor like a kind of religious figure who brought grace and dignity to ordinary events and people. He suffered the high and mighty, but he ensuringly qualities emphasized the salience of modesty and engagement with the public interest. I was fortunate in the last decade or so to work with him on the international Moot court competition that took place in Oxford, where he had been at Trinity College as a Rhodes Scholar. He came spring after spring, lovingly to work with aspiring lawyers who wanted to take part in the kind of understanding and creative enlargement of the media practice that John represented. In this very international project, encompassing so much hope, so many young, ambitious, we were privileged to have Jonathan's selfless devotion and Liz's when we were unusually fortunate. He was incredible at his ease, putting our students at their ease. I think often of Jonathan going from pub to pub among the ancient stones of Oxford, initiating Singaporeans, Serbians, Iranians, and all others into two domains: the technical arts of appellate arguments and the lesser-known arts of growing and maturing in the law. We established the prize in Jonathan's honor called Jonathan Blake Spirit of the Competition Award. This prize is usually awarded each year to young men and women who overcome an unusual hurdle or who manifest the winning features of Blakeism. Around the world, there are young lawyers who cherish this award and who seek to live up to John's inspiration. In the 50th anniversary book of John's Yale College class, he reflects on the importance to him of his friends and classmates. By conversing is significantly true as well. Our lives have been continuously enriched by John's example. With love, Moreau and Aimé.
So many of you will know that every year John would give us some words at the end of the week. And myself and Alex here have his words from the 19th of April 2024. So I'm just going to give them to you. And these are his words verbatim. With great joy, gratitude, and warranted humility on my part that the Spirit of the Competition Award is in my name. The Spirit Award has been given to mooters and mooting teams that have faced daunting obstacles to participating and have sometimes been blocked from doing so. The award has celebrated the role of our astute and committed judges, young and less young. So too coaches, who devote so much of their time and skills to their critical role in the moots. True also of the moot management team that largely behind the curtain pulls off this amazing undertaking, beginning the week or two after the preceding moot with professionalism, persistence, care, and innovative thinking. The Price Moot Courts also benefit greatly from its affiliation with the Bonavero Institute. And Kate is a wicked good judge in the final round and clearly enjoys that role. I am proud, and you should be proud as well, of the topics covered by the moots. They have always been important and challenging globally and country by country, never more so than this year, with our country more engaged with them and in different ways than in previous years.
Continuing Mr. B's words, it is remarkable and gratifying to me, Monroe, and Amy, how many Moot alums have gravitated towards roles in their countries and regions, whether in advocacy groups, government positions, or teachings, that address the knotty and ever-changing issues that this Moot addresses. There is one feature I especially love. The most successful mooters have breathtaking skills, and here they fine-tune them to a high polish. But advocates from countries where the mooting tradition is less robust and newcomers to the experience grow before your eyes as the competition proceeds is similarly exciting. The Price Moot Courts are, in short, over time spread geographically and culturally, a community, and not just over the 5 or 6 days in Oxford. We struggle to make that apparent to all of you, but we know it to be true. And it's even more valuable in today's chaotic world. Thanks, Mr. B.
So thank you for your attention on that. Let's move on. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our regional rounds. So every single one of you went through one of our 6 regional rounds. And I'm going to read each one of them and thank especially the regional coordinators. Some of them are in the room, but some of them are back home. So this year, for the first time, we had a wonderful regional round in Manila, Asia Pacific round, and hosted by Lyceum of Philippines University and led by Gil Aquino and Alvin Halcon. So they did an amazing job for the first time. We really enjoyed it. There was like a lot of new teams, and we hope to continue on that note in future years. We also had European round in Paris, hosted by University of Paris-Cité and coordinated by Nada Abu Saud and Batul Alanani, and supported by Sarah and Rosie as well on spot. So America's round, traditionally hosted by Benjamin Cardozo School of Law in New York, led by Jordan Walper and supported by Camille. We had our South Asia rounds online this year, but we do hope to go back in person in future years, hosted by Center for Communication Governance at the NLU Delhi in New Delhi. And they were led by a very big team that does an amazing job throughout the year. So we have Nidhi Singh, Teashwita Karel, Shriya Naskar, Angelina Dash, Dayaban Bachatari, Ishita, Tulsani. So applause for them. Our Africa rounds were also online, and they were led by our colleague Sanya Samtani. And last but not the least, Middle East rounds hosted by Anchems University in person this year and in Cairo, and led by Ahmed Khalifa and Ola Nagy. You know that we, people here on my right, have been helping to run the international rounds, but we were happy this year that Rosie officially joined us. We are welcoming her to the team. And she did an amazing job. I have been doing the scoring for years, and finally we find a person who loves it as much as I do, so she is around it all. So I'm super grateful for that. We also have Zyong that helped us this year, and she was also behind all the small things that you might have not noticed, but she was around all the rooms at all times, helping us with all different small critical things to ensure that Moot is running. So thank you, Zyong, for that. Alex so we didn't let him go from the moment that he participated 2014. So he has been coming back for years, and we really do appreciate his time here. And Bonavero Institute has appointed a new director of programs, Eliza, and we are super happy to welcome her to the team. And it's been great that she has been supporting the Moot from her very first day at the Institute, going with us and visiting the Middle East rounds and being the whole week with us, helping us with providing a talk, judging, moving around. So thank you, Eliza, for that. So I'm going to hand on to Camille.
And I'll keep this very quick, but I wanted to put on record just our immense appreciation for all the judges who took time to be here. Like Nevin and I were just talking a moment ago about how much feedback we got from participants that said, you know, these judges are amazing. The highlight of our experience has been to engage in conversation with these judges who have so much expertise, but who at the same time are so approachable and so amenable to giving advice. So we are really, really appreciative of all of your time that you have invested, and you'll be hearing from us soon as we plan for next year. So thank you so much.
We would be remiss not to mention that all of the judges aren't here in the room, nor are they all at the international rounds, because we had tireless regional round judges as well, and a giant pool of judges from across regions. So we really would like to extend our gratitude to them as well. And hopefully some of them are watching us and watching this particular event. Of course, there's often a criticism of moot court competitions as promoting the cult of the charismatic oralist. But in this moot, we try to push back against that by ensuring that our scoring depends on the memorials as well. So we would like to recognize our memorial judges regionally and internationally, in particular Petr Radosaviev, Chani Srivastava, and Juliana Mota. I also want to recognize Juliana Mota because she is the author of this case. And from the applause, it sounds like everyone's curious to know who Juliana is, who's the enigma that is Juliana. Well, we know that she would have loved to be here today, and she was fully planning to be here, but unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, couldn't make it. And she sent a really warm greeting to all of you just this morning. She's been watching the final, and she congratulated both teams for their excellent performance. So we thank her very much for her imaginative take on contemporary events, prescient take, in fact, on contemporary events. And so if you have any quibbles with Juliana about the problem, feel free to write to her directly. I'm sure she would love an email from you on a more serious note. Juliana didn't stop at writing the moot problem. She also wrote the bench memo. So judges, those of you who use the bench memorandum in your judging, you have Juliana to thank. And we've heard that the bench memorandum really sets out in a really short and sharp way all of the important arguments. So yeah, thank you, Juliana, for that as well. I'm going to hand over to Sarah.
So we would really like to just recognise all of you teams who have made it here through tough regional rounds, and so we're going to just name all of your teams. I'm going to apologise in advance if I don't get it right. Please forgive me. And it would be great if those of you hear from those teams, if you could just stand up and everybody could just applaud for each team. There are some teams who, although they qualified, they were unable to make it to Oxford, and this is something that is very sad for us, but unfortunately the way the world is, it's something that, as you will all know, or many of you will know, is becoming increasingly tricky, shall we say. So just waiting for my assistant. It's warming up. Okay, so Team 101, Eötvös Loránd University Faculty of Law from Hungary. Team 102, Tilburg University, Netherlands. Team 103, University of Vienna, Austria. Team 108, University of Luxembourg. Team 109, National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, Greece. Team 111, University of Bucharest, Faculty of Law, Romania. Team 113, Law Society of Ireland. Team 203, National Law University, Delhi, India. Team 205, OP Jindal Global University, India. Team 211, Eastern University, Bangladesh. Team 213, National Law University, Jodhpur, India. One of our ones who are unfortunately not able to join us is Team 217, Denning Law School, Pakistan. Team 220, National Law Institute, University, Bhopal, India. Team 221, National Law University, Odisha, India. Team 402, Cardozo School of Law, United States. Team 403, Osgood Hall Law School, Canada. Team 404, University of Chicago, United States. Team 405, University of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Team 501, Ain Shams University, Egypt. Another one who was unable to join us, 504, German University in Cairo, Egypt. Team 505, the British University, Egypt. Team 506, Cairo University, English section. Team 507, who again unfortunately were not able to join us, is University of Tehran, Iran. Team 509, Holy Spirit University of Kaslik, Lebanon. Team 701, National University of Singapore. Team 702, University of International Business and Economics, China. Team 703, Singapore Management University. Team 706, University of the Philippines. Team 709, Peking University School of Transnational Law, China. Team 711, Tarlac State University, Philippines. Team 714, Jose Maria College Foundation, College of Law, Philippines. And the next two teams were very sadly not able to join us. Team 803, University of Fort Hare, South Africa. Actually, it's the next two teams as well who weren't able to. Team 808, University of Nairobi, Kenya. And finally, Team 810, University of Benin, Nigeria.
So, as much as I'd like to take these home with me, I think you all deserve them more. So we are moving into that section of our awards ceremony where we announce the awards winners. So we'll start first of all with the runner-up team and the winner of the competition, and we'll ask Kate to hand out these awards. So first of all, the winner of the 18th international rounds of the Price Moot Court, Team 203, National Law University, Delhi. Absolutely. And then our runner-up team, Singapore Management University, Team 703. So next, I just wanted to recognize our advanced rounds team. So I list the teams. You've already been applauded, but we really want to recognize your progress in the competition. So first of all, and sorry, we're going to ask you to hold the applause till the end, just so we can make progress. So our semi-finalist teams, Cardozo School of Law, USA, and University of Chicago, USA. Our quarter-finalist teams, Osgoode Hall Law School, Canada, OP Jindal Global University, India, University of Sao Paulo, Brazil, University of the Philippines in the Philippines. And finally, our octa-finalist teams, Ain Shams University, Egypt, Cairo University English Section, Egypt, Eötvös Loránd University Faculty of Law, Hungary, Law Society of Ireland, National Law Institute University, Bhopal, India, National Law University, Odisha, India, Peking University School of Transnational Law in China, and finally, University of Bucharest Faculty of Law in Romania. So congrats to all of you. So we're moving now to our Oralist Awards, and we think it's fitting that we start with the best oralist in the final, and that is Kaylin Kok of Singapore Management University. And we'll ask Jill to present this award. Then our top oralists in the international rounds, and we'll ask each of you just to come here so we can get a group picture all together. So the top 10, starting with 10th place, Lee Ji Ting, Singapore Management University. Group stand here, please. In 9th, we have Manav Rajesh Ahuja, OP Jindal Global University. In 8th, we have Kaylin Kok of Singapore Management University. In 7th, we have Shivasunu Suresh Shangmungam. In joint 5th, we have Alisa Gillespie Mazuk of Osgoode Hall Law School and Ebunalua Akumalafe of Osgoode Hall Law School. Second, we have 3 people. Ananio Chatterjee, Opal, OP Jindal. Xavier Wu Yu of Singapore Management University. And Ong Wan Ying of Singapore Management University. And for our best oralist of the international rounds, we're going to ask Judge Paulo to present this award. And that goes to Norlin Villaruel of the University of the Philippines. So if we could get you all together for a photo. Come up a little. Yeah. Come up some more. And finally, for our memorial awards, and we'll ask Richard to present these. So the best memorials runner-up team is Peking University School of Transactional Law, China. And our Best Memorials Award goes to OP Jindal Global University.
There's Congratulations, teams. I think as organizers, one of the best things for us is when we see you get your well-deserved accolades and embrace it. We are laughing and clapping and celebrating you as well. So, yeah, thank you for being so passionate and present. Before we close the award ceremony, we did mention that there was one more award, the Jonathan Blake Spirit of the Competition Award. And although the team agonizes every year, there are always multiple contenders for this award. This year it was pretty clear. We worked out who we were going to give it to. Just to remind everyone, this award recognizes Mr. B's enduring impact and spirit. And we heard earlier about his brilliance, his legal mind, his compassion, his resilience. But what we didn't hear was how he would have liked to be remembered. He gave an interview, the same interview that Camille quoted from as well, where he said, when asked how he would like to be remembered, he said, "I would like to be remembered by this slogan, quote, 'He listened well,' close quote." It's in light of this that we decided to award, it's in light of this that we decided whom we wanted to award this award to. I said award way too many times in that sentence. For any endeavor to flourish in an enduring way, it takes a village. And we've previously recognized this and honored team coaches and judges of this competition for their dedication and their time. But we forget that it also takes an institution. And institutions are made by the people who build them. There's one person who has dedicated the better part of the last decade to building this competition. And it gives us great pleasure as a team, and me personally, to award the Spirit of the Competition Award to Professor Kate O'Regan this year.
Oh, no.
So, I'm not done. There's still more words. But let's do the photo first, maybe, Rosie. Kate, as everyone knows, you can have a seat if you like. Yeah. Is the inaugural director of the Bonavero Institute and former judge of the South African Constitutional Court. She's been a champion of the Moot ever since she started the institute. From giving the Moot its current institutional home that you're all in at the moment, to doing a thankless amount of legwork in ensuring that the competition remains supported through strange and unprecedented times, she has also built a space for our community, your community, to thrive and grow as part of the intergenerational international human rights community. From the many conversations we've had with Kate about the Moot, and about life, for that matter, her generosity with her time, despite what is probably the most packed schedule any of us have ever seen, including Sarah, who manages most of it, is what sets her apart from anyone else, as does Kate's belief in the capacity of mooting to change the world through mentoring the next generation of human rights activists and lawyers. In many ways, Kate and Mr. B share certain characteristics. Anyone who has met Kate, even briefly, will attest to her strong ethical compass, her dedication to making things work no matter what, her youthfulness, her kindness towards everyone around her. And Kate reminds us that to be a judge, whether in real life or in a moot court competition like this one need not be judgmental. There's another way, a kinder way, but one that remains uncompromising on legal rigor and clarity, as those of you on the receiving end of her questions will know. This is just one of the many lessons that I've learned from having been lucky enough to call Kate a mentor. Kate, on behalf of the Price Moot organizing team, the judges, the coaches, and the participants, we're truly grateful for all your years of support for the Moot. That said, we know your departure from the Institute means that you're not actually leaving us. The only thing that will change probably is your email address, so you will be hearing from us about next year. Professor Kate O'Regan, everyone. Camille, over to you.
I don't know why they like hearing my voice, but all that's left for me to say is thanks so much, everyone, for being here. Enjoy the rest of your time in Oxford. Please do keep connected to this community, to the Moot Court. We look forward to seeing some of you back next year in whatever capacity, as competitors, as coaches, as judges. Yeah, and best of luck to all of you. Thank you.